Good evening, everybody. I'm James Spadola. I have the absolute honor and privilege of leading the ceremony, the 152nd Annual Memorial Day Parade, the longest running one in the country. Thank you all. Give a round to yourself for coming out and showing your support and respect for our fallen veterans. So thank you all for coming out. First, I'd like to recognize some of the parade committee members. We have Gerald Brady, Scott Hendrickson, Frank Howerton, Chris Poslock, Patrick and Edith O'Brien, Bruce Schweiger, Nathan Field, and myself. A quick mention of some of our fallen committee members: Dorothy Hilliard, Jerry Mathena, Charlie Pico, Bill Tucker, Bob Simpson, Paul Hirschman, Albert and Corinne McMullen, Marion Townsend, Mildred and Merle Ward, and Dean Bungie. Without their support over the years, we would not be able to pull off 152 of these annually, so we thank them. We have some elected officials here that braved the rain with us. I made a list. I hope I don't forget anybody. We have the Mayor of Wilmington, Mike Przicki. Our Newcastle County Council President, Karen Hartley-Nagel. I see the Mayor of Newark, Jerry Clifton. Our Governor, John Carney, is here. Our State Auditor, Kathy McGinnis, is here. Our Newcastle County Recorder of Deeds, Mike Kozakowski. And our County Executive, Matt Meyer. And I saw our State Senator, Tizzy Lockman. And Gerald Brady, representative for this area. I also want to recognize retired General Frank Vavala. Do you want to say a quick few words, sir? I would be remiss if is the governor still here?
Yes, he is.
Governor, do you want to share a few words? Thanks for coming out here, sir. Short and sweet. Mayor Mike, a few words.
I think John won more votes with that speech than I will. A few important things. Welcome to our city. We're so very proud of our city, and we're so happy to have you here. An event like this tells you something about the soul of a city, and so that we continue to do this. There wasn't going to be a big enough rainstorm to stop this, right, James? And so it just makes me so proud of our city, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. When I thought about coming up here today, let me just give just one thought. And the thought was that I have 30-year-old kids, and they have a very different view of the world than I do. And it's very unsettling at times, because the truths that seem so evident to me are not shared by my son, who's a real normal, regular kid, but he just has very different views. And what troubled me when I thought about Memorial Day is, we remember the valor, we remember the lives sacrificed for this country and its values. But what it reminded me of is that people of my generation, I'm looking out here, and there are a lot of you with white hair. And so I'm just going to take a wild guess that we're somewhere within 5 years of one another. And when I was born, the bomb on Nagasaki had been dropped 10 days before. So that was very real to me. Everybody in the family had been to war in World War II. Everybody. It was a rare uncle or somebody who wasn't in the war. The war touched all of us. We knew World War I veterans. So when I was born, World War I vet was 45 years old. We knew World War I vets. And we saw people who had survived the Holocaust and still had numbers tattooed on their arms. That was our world. We knew Korea, and then of course, people my age were right in the middle of Vietnam and what it did to the country. So these aren't things that we read about in a book. These are things we lived, and these are things that they formed our attitudes about the world and how important it is to work hard for peace, because we know how quickly we can stumble or bluster into a terrible war, and we know about the families that suffer and the neighbors and the neighborhoods that are shattered as a result. So I came here just thinking to myself, you know, what we ought to be thinking about as we commemorate the lives of these wonderful Americans. We ought to be thinking about how we communicate in any way we can to our kids that this doesn't happen for free or by accident, that you have to work hard for it, and they have to be as vigilant as we do. So God bless all of you. Thanks for being here, and thanks for allowing me to say a few words.
I know John earlier mentioned our Grand Marshal, Mr. Raymond Fermani. Sir? 97 years old, Wilmington native, enlisted in the Army at 22. And I tell you more about him, but you should buy his book to find out more. It's called Against All Odds. You can buy it on Amazon.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with us today, sir.
Thank you for your service,
Next, I'd like to call up Rabbi Robinson for the invocation.
Good evening. I stand before you not being Rabbi Michael Beals, who's in the program. He unfortunately has to be with his father in California, so I'm grateful to be able to fill in for him. I'm standing before you as someone remembering two friends who served their country and paid the ultimate price. Ben Sclaver, who worked in Afghanistan, serving in the Army Corps of Engineers to provide water for remote locations, and Kevin Houston, a classmate of mine who died as a Navy SEAL. I stand before you as the grandson of someone who fought and was wounded in World War II, and as the son of a Navy chaplain, a man who served 36 years, Marines and sailors, to provide for their spiritual needs. And he became a chaplain because of Rabbi Roland Gittleson, a rabbi who served as a chaplain on Iwo Jima with the Marine Corps, and who was present to help dedicate the cemetery there in April of 1945. For this invocation, I share words from his dedication. Rabbi Gittleson said, "These men have paid the ghastly price of freedom. If that freedom be once again lost, the unforgivable blame will be ours, not theirs. So it is we, the living, who are here to be dedicated and consecrated. We dedicate ourselves," he said, "to live together in peace, the way they fought and are buried in this war." He said, "Here lie men who loved America because their ancestors generations ago helped in her founding, and other men who loved her with equal passion because they themselves or their own fathers escaped from oppression to her blessed shores. Here lie officers and men, rich and poor together. Here are Protestants, Catholics, and Jews together. Here no man prefers another because of his faith or despises him because of his color. Among these men, there is no discrimination, no prejudice, no hatred. Theirs is the highest and purest democracy." So we come on this Memorial Day, as our mayor said, as Rabbi Gittleson said, to remember those who paid the highest price, those who did not live to see children and grandchildren, those who answered the call of their country. And remembering that while they paid the price, it is we who must be consecrated to their memory. We who must be dedicated to their memory. We who must take up their responsibility to live in that higher, in that perfect democracy Rabbi Gittleson spoke of. We who must be in peace, what they were in war. May we be able to do so, as we say, Amen.
Thank you.
Now we will do the Star-Spangled Banner, led by Lieutenant Commander Edith O'Brien.
Everyone please stand and sing with me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Tom Kenny will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John Flaherty, who is one of the absolute bedrock committee members, is going to speak about the McMullen-Anderson Community Service Award.
Albert McMullen was commander of this committee for many, many years, along with Pauline Anderson. And Pauline's daughter is here, Miss Trout. Where is she? Right here. Pauline's daughter, thank you for coming all the way up from Lewis, Delaware. Appreciate that very much. McMullen and Anderson gave so much over the years of their time, of their talents, that after McMullen passed away in 2010, Pauline passed away a few years ago, we decided to remember their spirit and their hard work by a small award to somebody who exemplifies the same spirit of volunteerism that McMullen and Anderson exemplified. For many, many years, our awardee this year has been tirelessly working behind the scenes to put these chairs up. Now he's in a position we not only puts the chairs up, but he's director of the Parks Department. So Kevin Kelly, front and center. Where's Kevin? You know, getting these chairs here, getting them back is a pain in the neck. But Kevin has done it every year for 20 some years. So on behalf of the committee, Kevin, we wanted to recognize your assistance and help in putting together this Memorial Day parade and observance every year.
Sure. If I'd have known I was getting an award, I'd have dressed better. But of course, in order to move chairs, you got to do it. We thank everyone for today. You know, as the mayor said, it's a generational issue. We have to remember. I had an uncle that served in Vietnam, but unfortunately, over time, Agent Orange got him, and he succumbed to cancer. So I think we all have a military person in our lives that has impacted us, and we cannot forget the freedom that we have. I just have a small part in it. You know, I'm the parks director. We have a beautiful little triangle here that, you know, I've talked about using more than just once a year for different events. But appreciate the hard work. My partner in crime, Representative Brady, is always to help. We put up with 2 young guys over there. Those kids are going to help us, but it's a pleasure to make this event a successful one that it is. Thank you, John.
Okay.
It's time for Bagpipes, led by Rob Galloway. If we could have a quick moment of silence for all of our fallen veterans. Thank you. Next, we have the Honorable James Hanby to read General Order 11.
Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic, General Orders Number 11, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but post and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose of, among other things, of preserving those and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What aid can more assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breast a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives were the revelry of freedom to erase in chains, and their death the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of a nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting memory to her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, and other hearts cold in the solid trust, ours shall keep it as long as the light and warmth of light remain in us. Let us then at the appointed time gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them that dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us, in this solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us as a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldier and sailor's widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year while a survivor of the war remains, to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to lend its friendly aid in bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order effective. By order of General John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General.
A lot of people ask us how come the parade is on May 30th when Memorial Day is celebrated on Monday. Well, that is exactly why, right there. Now, we are moving on to the keynote speaker, led by John Riley. John is a lifelong Delawarean. He graduated from Sally's, a U.S. Army veteran, and he has written a few books himself. Most recently, Tackling Life, about Philadelphia Eagle Kevin Riley, and he's got a new one coming out about Delaware Eyewitness, behind the scenes in the first state, and he is going to speak to us tonight about a POW that also graduated from Sally's from the Vietnam War.
No, it's fine. Thank you, James. Governor Carney, Mayor Perzicki, Memorial Day Parade Committee, members of the Connell and Murphy families, military veterans, ladies and gentlemen. Grand Marshal Ray Fermani, thank you for your valiant service in World War II. By the way, I just make one comment about the mayor and the sincerity of his words. Over lunch, not too many years ago, we were discussing a book about battles in World War II, and on the spot decided to go to Normandy. And just a few months later, we ended up spending 7 days touring all the battlefields of France. And I can tell you that he feels all that in his bones, and just like he cares for the city. It's an honor to speak to you this Memorial Day about the life of Wilmington, Delaware's greatest hero, James J. Connell. Lieutenant Commander Connell's short and extremely challenging life would intersect with a future Delaware resident, Murphy Neal Jones, in July 1966 in the squalor of a Hanoi prison, and again this past November. Colonel Jones was asked to speak about his comrade in arms and fellow prisoner of war when Connell was posthumously awarded the Order of the First State by Governor Carney in a ceremony at the Delaware Memorial Bridge. As Jones rose up to speak on Veterans Day, he began by saying that his speech was going to be the hardest he ever had to deliver. The fighter pilot, who had been held for 2,421 days as a prisoner of war, worried he would not be able to properly honor Connell, whom he referred to as this brave man. He said it was not because he could not find the words, but because of the emotion that he felt. Shot down only 17 days apart in 1966, Colonel Jones described the circumstances that made him a brother to a man he would never see. Circumstances were grim for all POWs at that time, but particularly brutal for J.J. Connell, who before his death due to maltreatment would spend 1,645 days suffering at the hands of his captors. In Colonel Jones's words, J.J. and I would end up at the same camp known as the Zoo. The Zoo was a notoriously harsh camp. Although severely injured, solitary for me would last 5 months. I don't know how long J.J. was in solitary confinement, but I know it was much, much longer. I spent over 4 years in the zoo until I was moved to another camp with several other prisoners due to overcrowding. JJ did not move with us. During those years, I never talked to JJ. During those years, I never saw JJ. But I did hear stories through our TAP code about his harsh treatment. We don't know why he was singled out, but we do know one thing for sure: JJ Connell was a strong and brave man. Only the North Vietnamese and maybe 4 Cuban interrogators who were at the zoo for over a year know how he died. Jimmy Connell and his sister Ann grew up in St. Thomas Parish at 403 Sycamore Street in Union Park Gardens. Their father, who served in the Seabees during World War II, died suddenly when Connell was only 15 years old. Jimmy stepped up to help his mother, who had to return to work to support the family. Aspiring to follow his uncle, City Council President Woody McClafferty, into politics, Jimmy Connell spent time as a congressional page. The 1957 Salesianum yearbook referred to him as a good little Democrat. In 1956, Connell joined the Delaware delegation for the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. A newspaper account that August said Jimmy Connell set an eating record on the train to Wilmington. Although Connell had aspirations to go into politics, a visit to the Naval Academy changed him in a profound way. It was a life-altering experience for the young Wilmington lad, and he became determined to serve his country in another way. Since there was another James Connell in his academy class, they ended up calling him JJ. During his time at the academy, Connell started the Foreign Affairs Club, today referred to as the Naval Academy Foreign Affairs Conference. The conference brings together 150 scholars from across the United States and over a dozen countries. In 2009, the conference recognized J.J. Connell by naming the keynote address in his honor. The naval biography of J.J. Connell states that he graduated on June 7, 1961, and was designated a naval aviator on June 18, 1962. After serving as a flight instructor, he joined Attack Squadron 55 aboard the carrier Ticonderoga before serving on the USS Ranger beginning in August of '64. On July 15, 1966, Connell was flying an A-4 Skyhawk on an Iron Hand mission along the Red River south of Illinois when he was hit. Iron Hand missions were high-risk assignments. They were designed to attack SAM missile sites to suppress enemy fire to clear the way for the pilots to follow. In the early 70s, in recognition of J.J. Connell's Vietnam service, his name was enshrined on the wall of Memorial Hall at the Naval Academy, along with 23 members of the class of 1961. He was the only member of his class awarded the Navy Cross, our nation's second highest award for valor. But while the nation and the Naval Academy did not forget Connell's service, and his name could be found on the Delaware Vietnam Memorial right down the street, little attention was paid to this Delaware hero until Bill Cole, also a Salesianum graduate and a Navy fighter pilot, noticed his name in a biography about Medal of Honor recipient Colonel Bud Day. Day was the last man to see J.J. Connell alive. Cole, who served late in the war, decided to investigate the story behind the man Day referred to as a hard resistor. Cole was soon surprised to learn that Connell's hometown was Wilmington, Delaware, his own hometown. He also learned his widow Jenny was living in San Diego. When he spoke to her, he received another surprise when he found out that he also graduated from Salesianum School. Determined to see Connell recognized by the school, Bill Cole nominated J.J. to the school's Hall of Fame. This event would lead to Connell being nominated for the state's highest honor. The ceremony at the Delaware Memorial Bridge this past November was an emotional one. J.J.'s widow, Jenny, now in her 80s, made the journey to Delaware from California and was joined by J.J.'s sister, Ann, and brother-in-law, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony DiBenedetto. Anthony is a decorated veteran who served as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and in 1974 escorted Lieutenant Commander Connell's remains back to the United States. Ann is here today with her family, and please recognize Ann and her family. Also with us today is the family of my friend Colonel Murphy Neal Jones, his wife Glenda, daughter and son-in-law, if you'd please recognize them as well. Jenny Connell's own heroic efforts to gain better treatment for our Vietnam-era POWs has been recognized in books such as In Love and War by Medal of Honor recipient James Stockdale and his wife Sybil, and the recently published League of Wives by Heath Lee. JJ and Jenny's children were ages 2 and 3 when he went to war, and they would never have an opportunity to know their father. Having only recently moved to Delaware, a determined 80-year-old Colonel Murphy Neal Jones arrived at the War Memorial Plaza for the Veterans Day ceremony, prepared to honor J.J. Connell. Requiring oxygen and a walker to make his way to the podium, his words were delivered with power and with passion. Looking back, it seems clear that he understood this would be his last public act. He took the time to explain the POW flag. I think I saw it earlier. He took the time to explain the POW flag that would, a few months later, follow his own casket to a gravesite at Arlington National Cemetery. He then said this about Connell and a very special group of men. There were 496 POWs in North Vietnam, and 28 would not return. The North Vietnamese tried their best to force us to go beyond name, rank, service number, date of birth, and branch of service. They would not accept total resistance. We all broke to some degree, except for 28. They resisted until death. J.J. Connell is one of those 28 heroes. In 6 days, we will turn our attention to the sacrifices of another generation who 75 years ago fought to free an enslaved European continent. We will hear the words of General Eisenhower, who called that effort a great crusade. The eyes of the world are upon you, Ike said. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. With only his hopes and prayers, James J. Connell of Wilmington fought on alone. He could have accepted better treatment from his captors, who thought they could break him. But like the men of D-Day, JJ's bravery and devotion to country were stronger than the enemy. I want to thank Governor Carney, Salesianum School, and the Wilmington Memorial Day Parade Committee for embracing the memory of Delaware's most highly decorated hero of the Vietnam War. But what about future generations? Will Jimmy Connell's name and story soon fade away again? I hope our community and our public officials can come together and consider a more permanent recognition for one of the state's greatest heroes, so future generations will never forget his sacrifice. Thank you.
Next, we will have William Penn Air Force Junior ROTC conduct our floral tributes. Do you know where they are? Might be a change in plans.
Yeah, we got Ken, why don't you just announce who's going to be helping?
We're pleased this evening to have some special guests with us from Philadelphia and Trenton, and they're the reenactors from the 3rd and 6th U.S. Colored Troops, and they've come down here to join the Sons of Union veterans at our camp as well as Bradbury, and so we're pleased to have them with us.
Sons of Union Veterans.
This is for the Sons of Union Veterans.
Present. Oh. Cover. Right. Hey, some more.
This is for Gold Star family.
Inward face. Present.
For those who don't know what a Gold Star family is, it means a family lost a family member in combat. This is for the Irish Culture Club.
All right, we'll just take that up there and stick it around.
Present. Oh.
All right. How about this one too?
Cover.
This one is definitely for the Irish Culture Club.
Present. Oh.
This is for the Delaware VFW.
Present. Oh.
This is in honor of Medal of Honor recipient Sergeant James Connor.
Present.
Turn it around and stick it in the ground.
Heat cover.
We have one more. Lieutenant Commander James Connell.
This is for Lieutenant Commander James J. Connell.
Present. Oh. Heat cover.
That is all of them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Right. Forward. Up.
Now we will have, yes, please, a round of applause. Rabbi Robinson will lead us in the benediction.
Words by Archibald MacLeish. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night and when the clock counts. They say, "We were young. We have died. Remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours. They are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, "Whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends war and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning." "We were young," they said. "We have died. Remember us." We remember them. We give their deaths and their lives meaning. We pray for an end to war, that no more will have to suffer their fate. We pray that we may live up to their memory, that our actions and our choices may serve them as they served us. May it be so, as we say. Amen.
I'd like to welcome up the Honor Guard from VFW Post 475 out of Newark. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our ceremonies. Unless Chairman Tom Kenny wants to close out with some quick words. No, he does not. But again, thank you for braving the weather with us. And we'll see you next year on May 30th, not the Monday.